Hello, and welcome to a special episode of Dairy Digressions, a new podcast of the American Dairy Science Association, the Journal of Dairy Science, and JDS Communications. I'm Matt Lucy, Editor-in-Chief of JDS Communications, and I'll be your host. I am coming to you from the 2023 annual meeting of the ADSA in Ottawa, Canada. This global gathering of dairy scientists convenes every year and brings together the top minds of the dairy industry. For these special episodes, I'll be sitting down with the experts who are attending the meeting to get their thoughts on the meeting, the sessions, and the exciting new developments in dairy. If you enjoyed Dairy Digressions or have any feedback for us, please let us know at adsa@adsa.org. Make sure to like, subscribe, and rate us on whatever platform you're listening to, and spread the word to a friend or colleague. Now let's get going. Okay, today we have Dr. Paul Fricke from the University of Wisconsin.
Hello,
My
Matt.
good friend, fellow reproductive physiologist.
Talking reproduction
Reproduction, and it is going to be fantastical, okay? And so I've known Paul forever. Paul grew up in Nebraska on a row crop and dairy farm there, Papillon.
We say Papillion in Nebraska.
Papillion, you're
We
not
don't
French.
do the
It's not a
thing.
French
It's not a
town.
French town, yeah.
Yeah, so Nebraska, where his family still farms today. He got his BS in animal science from UNL, okay, but then I see you're at North Dakota State
North Dakota
for MS and PhDs, and who was your boss there?
State. Larry Reynolds and Dale Redmer. I was co-advised by those two guys.
Famous duo.
Famous duo.
And you finished up in North Dakota State in 1996. You went to a postdoc at UW Madison.
Yep.
Okay.
Spent some time at the Meat Animal Research Center during my PhD.
Somewhere in there.
Yep.
Okay. And okay, so you're a postdoc UW Madison. I think that was a postdoc with Milo or was somebody else?
Milo and Ollie Ginther.
Oh, wow.
They had a joint USDA grant at the time.
Oh, my
Yep.
goodness. And so you started on the faculty there in 1998, associate professor 2004, full professor 2009. Today you boast a 70% extension, 30% research appointment at the University of Wisconsin.
That's correct.
Madison. Okay, the center of all things dairy, other than Tulare County.
The hub of the wheel.
The hub of the wheel.
That's
Okay,
right.
the center of all things dairy. Number 2 in number of dairy cows, but
Number one in cheese.
number 1 in cheese. Okay, so Paul is just world famous for his research program in reproductive biology. He publishes a tremendous number of manuscripts and abstracts, book chapters, mentors graduate students, numerous awards. I think this is a great statement from your bio. Dr. Fricke is sought after speaker for dairy farmers industry veterinary audience, giving over 500 talks in Wisconsin and other places, 36 states, 6 Canadian provinces, 27 foreign countries, 6 continents. Okay.
Sometimes I wonder if you're actually reading.
I
that
am
about me.
reading
I
this.
this dairy
I got-
farm in Nebraska, and now I've been all over the world.
No, it's true. And it's true. And if you've ever heard Paul speak, there's a reason he's given so many talks. Okay. The guy's a superstar, lots of awards, including ADSA Young Scientist Award, ADSA Extension Award, awards from the University of Wisconsin. I'm probably missing some. But anyways, welcome, Paul. It's certainly great to have you here and talk Repro. Okay,
Thanks for the invitation. This is great.
Missed some awards, but anyways, there's so many I can't read everything. Okay, so Paul, I got to know you, and when I remember you, you see, I am so old. I knew you before you were a faculty member. I remember you kind of started out kind of in the ultrasound game. You were doing early pregnancy diagnosis. What would you say your first foray? Outside after North Dakota State, when you got to Wisconsin, what was your earliest sort of research type stuff?
Yeah, no. So I got to Wisconsin in 1995, and that was the year that Milo Wilbank and Richard Pursley had published the off-sync protocol.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really went there to learn ultrasound.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an ovary guy, so
Mhm.
you know, doing follicular growth and that kind of a thing. And so Ollie Ginther was kind of into the ultrasound scheme,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, Milo was working with OpSync, and so it was a really great environment to come into and just get started with dairy. And you know, when you went through my bio, when I was with Redmer and Reynolds at North Dakota State, so I grew up on a dairy farm,
Mhm.
milking cows, but my training, actually my master's and PhD, was more basic reproductive biology across species.
Mhm.
And so when I got done with my PhD, I decided that I wanted to get back to dairy. And what better way to do that? Go to Wisconsin, work with Wilbank and Ginther and try to get into in through the back door that way, I guess. So.
And I remember sort of kind of watching your career sort of evolve. It was always, it kind of, as I recall, it was about sort of early pregnancy diagnosis, and then it sort of evolved into sort of combinations of, okay, resynchronization, early pregnancy diagnosis. How do you put those two things together? You did a lot of chemical pregnancy diagnosis stuff, you know, and of course, Paul is famous for some of the early resynchronization studies where you demonstrated that, you know, if you try to resync them too early, you get a bad result. You got to wait to a certain interval, and then you got to combine that with ultrasound.
Trying to optimize that, trying to tie that into, you know, resync is dependent upon a non-pregnancy diagnosis. And so we both have an interest in PAGs. And so logically just doing methods for non-pregnancy diagnosis, optimizing resynchronization, those kinds of things is early on what I was doing. Yeah.
So for the audience out there, you know, I hope everybody understands, you know, what, you know, the University of Wisconsin and Michigan State and University of Florida, you know, what they're able to achieve. And basically in our career, Paul, I mean, is take a, you know, a subfertile group of animals, okay, is that fair to say, the dairy cow? I mean, we were having significant reproductive issues getting cows pregnant, and then there was the evolution of first service programs. And then Paul, I think when I think about your you know, contributions, you know, we did pretty good by getting those first service, the precincts, the OpSyncs, the double OpSyncs. We got the first service optimized, but it really, in my mind, it wasn't until we got that resync piece in there that, and you were a massive part of that, as you know, and it wasn't until we got that resync piece in there that the astronomically good reproductive rates finally came to fruition. I sort of feel, don't you think? It was really the resync was the missing link?
Resync at the time, I remember meeting you at a national meeting, and you said resync is where it's at. And I said, Matt, I'm doing resync stuff.
Good,
you know,
and
so that's we were working hard on the resync aspect of things. I think the other thing that happened, you know, with so we're talking about kind of fertility programs and protocols and things like that. Really, when we understood the limitations of fertility, you know, I've often said that the factors that limit fertility to an estrus breeding are quite different than the factors that limit fertility to a synchronized breeding program. When we figured out that it was really that luteolysis that wasn't taking place, because we're pushing that, you give that first GnRH and you induce an ovulation, you have to regress a CL that's 7 days old, and that simply wasn't it. So when the second prostaglandin was put in the double OpSync program, it just Repro just popped. And
now tell me, I want, okay, we still haven't, we're along, boy, do we have enough time? How much tape do we have in our tape recorder? We may have to flip over the cassette. Okay, you guys don't know about cassettes and flipping over cassettes, but they're too young. But anyways, remember cassettes?
I do remember cassettes.
Okay.
I remember 8-track tape.
Oh, awesome. Okay, yeah. So we have to flip over the cassette for side 2 on this thing. But anyways, so that was okay. So that was giving the second prostaglandin injection. You know, you're at the final piece of the OpSync, and you're going to give another one.
That
was the
step, one. That was the one.
2013, or what year was that? Was
I would say that was
primary author began with a B.
Bruce Veen. That first paper was 2008.
Oh yeah.
And the fun thing about being an extension is, you know, you see these things happen with research, and it takes a number of years to get that information in the industry and get these people to do things. But you know, so let's go back to 21-day preg rates. Early on, when you and I were started, I mean, it was 14% preg rates. It was average conception rates in the mid 30% range. If you would have told me 20 years ago that we would have 30% plus preg rates,
never believe
that 50% of our cows would be getting pregnant for service, it would just, you would say that couldn't happen.
Right.
But it's what happened. And now, you know, our good herds, I remember you know, it used to be the pie in the sky goal for 21-day preg rate was 20%. And hardly anybody could get there.
Right.
And so I did a talk, it was like I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago was 30-30.
Yeah.
How to get a 30% preg rate in a 30,000 pound herd. They blew by that so quick. Now we've got herds. I had 3 herds that I work with. These people came up to me at World Dairy Expo last year and said, we're hitting 40% 21-day preg rate. It's just phenomenal.
How, you don't
We
end up
fixed
on
the problem.
We fixed
Matt,
the
we've
problem.
worked
We
our
fixed
way
it.
out of the business.
And
It's
go
time to
fishing.
retire.
All right,
Exactly.
go fishing.
Because preg rates are extremely high.
It's so we're gonna talk about the final piece of the equation. We might wait till we get to the truth discussion topic, but we want to talk. I want to get in now. We're into the phase where now we're sort of combining wearable technology with the synchronization programs, and I want to get to that, but we're gonna just divert.
So digression. This is Dairy Digressions.
Digress. We're trying not to digress.
This is
We're
digressions.
digressing. We're
Yes.
staying on the schedule here, but we're going to get to that because I want to talk about that because I think that's important as well. But I remember what I was going to say now. I was going to say we have gotten so good that, I read Progressive Dairy, Hordes Dairyman, there's not that much written on Repro anymore. They just sort of they've forgotten us. They know how to get their cows pregnant. And so I feel almost like you don't see as many articles on, oh, try this, try that. Cause I think people feel like, well, we've got some protocols. We know they work. We're going to go with that. Do you get that sense as well?
I do. I think the low hanging fruit has been picked. I guess you would say we've got good protocols. I think the industry has. I remember doing a talk. There was off-sync, co-sync, pre-sync, resync, the kitchen sink. I mean, there was all these kinds of things. Everyone was confused. And I used to tell people, look, this is going to kind of coalesce down to a few major strategies. Yeah. And I would say our large herds now are largely, I would say pre-sync, off-sync herds focused on heat detection first and then cleaning up with timed insemination. Yeah. Or they're going with more of a fertility program with like a double off-sync for first breeding and then catching the cows coming back into heat and doing a resync. So I think these really high preg rates that I see in the industry are driven by a combination between the synchronization programs and good heat detection as well, which is where some of the heat detection symptoms and those kind of things come into play. I
think just listening to you talk, Paul, as well. If you remember, Paul and I were both in Ireland. Okay. We wouldn't miss a trip to Ireland.
Solved all the problems.
We solved all the problems out there. And
6 months.
Our good friend Roberto Sartori from South America gave a talk on their programs. And one of the things I recall was, in South America, they have a diversity of cattle, diversity of situations, diversity of everything. And they've got really a diversity of protocols. If you remember his talk, excellent talk, but lots of different approaches you can make. And I think one thing that's nice about US dairy is, as you mentioned, there's kind of a finite number of protocols that we know work and we can recommend. We don't have to get too complicated. Okay, double off-sync or pre-sync off-sync, pick your favorite. I'm kind of a double off-sync guy myself, but you pick your favorite, put a resync on the end of that thing, and off you go.
Combine it with heat detection.
You got it, right?
And the other thing I wanted to mention, Matt, is that the other thing that has radically changed as we've improved 21-day preg rates is once we had good reproduction, now we're having arguments about what should the herd turnover rate be. Oh, yeah. So we're doing the Discover Conference coming on, cow longevity. That's the question. That is a product of good reproduction.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing is the adoption of beef semen and sex semen. I just sat through some sessions earlier today on the crossbred calves, what we're doing with them. And so, it's opened up all these areas, embryo transfer. None of these things would be I view them as kind of a pyramid. And at the base of that pyramid is good repro. And so now that we've got good repro, all these technologies are kind of stackable. And so take away good repro, it all falls apart. Right. So we've got to maintain.
We're killing it. The nutritionists think they're good, but really the repro.
The geneticists think they're the ones that have done this. And really, it's not that I keep arguing with the geneticists. I'm not dogging the geneticists.
Yeah, but they control the data, and who controls the data controls the knowledge.
I know, but I'm just saying, I'm a genetics fan. I'm just saying that I think that the improvements in repro that we've seen have the geneticists have slowed the decline.
Right. Okay.
And I think in the
Yeah.
future, the genetics are going to turn the corner. But
Yeah.
I think the things that have really, this high fertility cycle
Yeah.
concept,
Yeah.
as well as the fertility programs that we have, I
Yeah.
think those are the two things that have really driven kind of this reproduction revolution, I
Yeah.
guess, that we've seen over the last
Yeah.
10 to 20 years.
Yeah, the beef on dairy is a great story where, we've got so many, we're so good at getting cows pregnant now. We basically specifically get them pregnant to produce beef animals to eat.
Exactly.
And then, you know what I heard? I don't know. There's some people working on taking milk and just turning the milk into meat too. Okay.
Oh, yeah, there you
the
go.
milk to meat. That's a
Milk
new
to
thing,
meat.
beef out there. We're
Right.
making so much milk.
Yep.
Okay. We got making so many fertile things. We can give you the meat as meat, or we can just give you milk and you can make it into meat. I mean, do we have to feed everybody in
Right.
this? I mean, I don't know how we go forward like this. Okay. But anyway, so Paul's like, keep it inside the line.
Keep it
Dr.
inside the
Lynch.
line, sir, man.
Okay. So tell me about, so now we're gonna,
We doing the e-sync?
No,
Not yet.
you're
Okay.
not, you didn't read your protocol.
Okay, I didn't read it.
Okay, but we're talking about the local dairy scene in Wisconsin. Okay,
Ah.
now it doesn't have to be repro scene. What are the Wisconsin guys talking about on the dairy front? Okay, what's on their mind? Price of milk, labor.
Right now, price of milk is low. I would say
Yeah.
labor is always an issue, but the more kind of recent thing that's happened, we're dry.
Really?
Dry, and we haven't had a lot of rain, so they're starting to panic a little bit about where they're going to get forages.
Mhm.
Second cutting hay is slowly going, but if we don't get
Mhm.
some rain, we're not going to have a lot of alfalfa in third cutting, and so that's a really big issue that we're dealing with.
Mhm.
I would say the industry, when I came to Wisconsin in the mid 90s, I think there were 24,000 dairies.
24,000.
24,000 dairy farms, about 1.2 million cows.
Okay.
Now we just probably are about 6,000 dairies now today,
Wow.
and about 1.25 million cows. So
Yeah.
we're seeing it's a trend that's happening all over the
Yeah.
world, but it's just a reorganization. I think within the state, dairies are getting larger. We're seeing a lot of multi-site
Mhm.
operations that are happening, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
They're really hungry for knowledge. I think
Yeah.
you're right. I think they all think repro is pretty easy now,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
so they're looking at other rate limiting steps in their operations and that sort of thing. But
Yeah. It
things are-
really.
things are going well.
And I think I think it's important to emphasize these farms have consolidated.
Yep.
There's more cows on each farm, but I think the management has improved and associated with those cows.
Absolutely.
Right? There's no question. You can't.
Facilities are better.
Everything is better.
Transition cow facilities made a big difference in our industry.
Yeah. You can't manage 5,000 cows and you not knowing what you're doing.
no.
They just it doesn't work.
Yep.
And so this is I think Paul would agree. You get on these big dairies and these guys know stuff, they know stuff.
They know stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so so Paul, tell me about your ADSA experience. I've known you for a long time. I think you probably were first an SSR guy, Society Study of Reproduction.
SSR is where I would have gone. I started coming to ADSA probably that first year that I was working with World Bank would have probably been about 1996.
Okay.
And I think I've gone every year since.
Oh yeah, you always go.
I always go.
Why do you always go?
This is the premier place for dairy. I mean, for me, for my students, we're doing the kind of work that I think fits best at this meeting.
Mhm.
It's somewhat applied, but it's also got a basic slant to it.
Mhm.
It's the right audience. It's the scientists that I want my students to be able to, get to know.
Yeah.
It's the people that they need to get to know to continue their careers.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of the meeting place of dairy.
Yeah, it really true, right?
Sure.
It's true. I mean, during the whole evolution of all these things, we would get together and look at each other's posters and
Yep.
go to each other's sessions
Yep.
and get to know one another. And it's kind of, I think one thing that's nice about dairy is in dairy repros, it's not a hostile environment. It's never been a hostile environment. I
So
don't
there's
feel
some
it.
healthy. I would say there's some healthy debate and criticism
Yeah.
within repro,
Yeah.
but I think everybody gets along well, and
Yeah.
we're all kind of interested in what's going on, and what we're
Right.
doing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we all try to make sure that, we work together, try to send consistent messaging,
Yep.
it doesn't, I always tell people, I don't talk in Wisconsin very often, but occasionally I'll get up in there and I always call Paul beforehand say, Paul, I'm gonna be in
What's going
Wisconsin.
on?
You're
That's
gonna,
right.
if you hear somebody said something, that was me.
And then
you-
the phone starts ringing. Matt comes to Wisconsin. It's like, what is this guy saying to
what
us
is
now?
going on? He's throwing my train has left the track. What's going on? Any favorite? Where do you like to go to a meeting? You like Kansas City? You're a Nebraska boy. You probably wish it was in Lincoln or something. Oh,
Go to Lincoln. Come to Madison. Why don't we come to Madison?
Why don't we go
We've
to
had
Madison?
meeting in Madison. Have we had we had SSR in Madison, but I don't know when was the last time ADSA was in Madison? It's
We
been
need
there.
to have it in Madison
It
in the
should be in Madison,
summer, and it's
Wisconsin,
got to
on
incorporate
the
a
terrace.
Friday on the terrace,
Yep.
on the lake.
That'd be nice.
Okay.
It's a good place for
You
me.
hear me? Who is it? Jerry Bowman, Madison. Okay, next slide. Because you're big enough to host a dairy science
yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, not a problem.
That would be.
We
Can
got
you
those
fly
guys.
in there? Do I got to
You can
take?
fly in
do I
there.
take a
No,
canoe
We
there?
have
How
an
do I
airport.
get there?
They just
You have
expanded
an
the airport, Matt. They added on to the airport.
I didn't
So
know.
we're
I
good.
didn't know if I needed a covered wagon or how to get to your place. Okay,
no.
yeah. Good,
Well,
okay.
we're just getting power lines put in, and so we've got phones and
We
stuff
got
like that. Yeah.
phones. So we want Madison. Okay, we want I agree. That'd be great in the summer. That would be so much fun.
It'd be good.
Yeah, that would be so much fun. Anything you're looking for this meeting? We got some good sessions coming up on transition cows, I think, and stuff like that.
I think, Matt, like we've been saying, the low hanging fruit with the lactating cow,
Mhm.
I think that's all moved into this beef on dairy sex semen. I've got a PhD student working on all things sex semen.
Yeah.
I think now, I think the next thing that I'm interested in with Repro is the non-lactating heifer.
What?
Yeah, I think that there's
They're
a lot.
easy to get pregnant, Paul. What do
But
you
they're
want
easy,
to? You want
but
to
it's
cruise
not
your?
that. No,
you're
no, it's
cruising
not
your
that.
end of
You're
your
not
career.
following me here, Matt. So the problem is not just Repro. What I would say is the problem is that people are not aggressive enough with Repro. We've
Okay.
got good tools. And also, I think that there's a lot of work to be done on properly growing heifers and getting them pregnant at the right
Yeah, fair
mature
enough.
body
right?
weight. So I think that there's a lot of money left on the table in the way that farmers are managing heifers now, and just trying to get those heifers to grow properly,
Right.
to breed them at the right weight targets, and to optimize that.
Right.
And I think there's it's wide open. right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And there's some abstracts here on some of those topics that I'm interested in seeing later in the
Yeah.
week.
That's
So
cool.
should be good.
So you're ready to move on then? Heifers.
Not move on.
I
We're
don't
still
know.
working with sex semen in the lactating cow, but
Oh,
we're
yeah,
not
yeah.
moving beyond. But I mean, I think it's an area that needs some attention.
But Paul, sex semen and lactating cows got a lot better, right? Remember
It's
when it
gotten better.
started? Don't use it on your cows. You'll never get them pregnant.
Now
And
that
now
we've got
I
high
think-
preg rates.
Right, but I think I heard some, I don't know, I read in hordes or something. It's more than 50% of the cows are getting bred sex semen. Is that, could it be that high?
So Megan, my PhD student, we just had that article in Journal of Dairy Science where
Okay.
we took the big data.
What journal
set
is that?
from DRMS. Yeah, Journal of Dairy Science. You know,
The other one,
that
I
the
was
one that's
thinking
your-
JDS communication.
No. This is Journal of Dairy Science.
The other one, the other
Oh,
ASA
you're
journal.
JDSC.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
right.
okay,
Okay.
yeah,
So
that's a
anyhow, we kind of did a breakdown of sex semen and how it's being used by parity. And
Yeah,
so what I would say is that the use of beef and sex semen is increasing year over year. We're still not at kind of a steady state. The industry is trying to feel that out. So
Yeah.
I think we're going to continue to see increases in both sex and beef semen and decreases in conventional semen. It's
Yeah,
going to continue to
yeah.
happen. Yeah.
yeah. So Paul is, we probably should, Paul and I are repro guys, and so we probably skip over a lot of stuff that maybe not. I should just emphasize the fact that when you talk about heifer reproduction, the reason it's so critical is it's not good enough just to get them pregnant at some age. They got to be pregnant that age,
Right
but they got to
time.
be the right size when they enter the lactating cow herd, or
Or
else they don't
you
do well.
compromise milk production.
Right.
And the key to heifers, 50% of heifer rearing costs is feed.
Mhm.
And days on feed is determined by when they calve, which is determined by when you get them pregnant. So you
Yeah.
can really optimize the thing. It's a hidden cost, and farmers don't look oftentimes at that,
Mhm.
the feed cost, but
Mhm.
there's a tremendous, in what Megan has showed in some of her work, published in the Journal of Dairy Science,
Oh, yeah.
is that,
We couldn't get it into
you can
JDSC.
actually,
or-
you can actually, we have a paper coming in JDSC too.
Okay, good.
But optimizing that gives you a lot of extra dollars to be more aggressive with, say,
Yeah.
like synchronization programs, which
Yeah.
are quite expensive in heifers.
Yeah.
And so you can pay for that and be profitable dollars ahead by saving days on feed.
I think that's that's, these are just such important questions to our dairy people, and to have that go forward. And so we're going to back up a little bit and sort of fill in a few things that we didn't really, maybe not explain to everybody understands. And so, because the next topic we're going to talk about is, where is estrus synchronization or time to AI headed? And just to be clear to everyone, we in the dairy industry, the majority, I would say the vast majority of cows are on some sort of program for first insemination. Is that fair? 75%?
Depends on what you call a program. I mean, yeah. I mean, so I think if I look at herds that are doing a really nice job with their 21-day preg rates, I would say probably half of the cows are going to get a timed insemination. Half the cows are going to get bred to estrus. Again, the concept is putting those two things together. So depending on the first breeding program, if they're focused on, say, a pre-sync off-sync with cherry picking off that second prostaglandin, those herds would have more estrus breedings, right? Fewer time to AI breedings. But I'm kind of like what you said before. I think, using a fertility program, especially if I'm going to be using sex semen, you're going to get the best fertility. I'm 100% time to AI for first breeding, and then catching those cows coming back into heat and then resyncing everything else. You're going to be about 50-50, I would guess, on time to AI versus estrus. So that's kind of where we are in the industry now.
So these fertility programs, it's just time to AI fertility programs. Well, both names are fine with me. They involve a series of injections, intramuscular injections. So the cow, okay, we're going to talk about the new air systems, which maybe you got some new information on that. Well, we're going to get there, but they involve, so, the cow's going to receive an injection. See that you're going to get it on. I don't know what happens in Wisconsin, but some people might give it in the parlor when they're going through the parlor. Some people might cut them out as they're out of the parlor, and some people might have them go to the pen, and they might get headlocked in the pen and get their injection. Is that fair? The places they might get their injections?
Yeah. And I've never been a fan of the parlor.
I agree. Don't give it to them in the parlor.
Just because, and I think, what we're moving towards here, Matt, is that these protocols have been very successful. I think one of the limitations is that you're using needles, right? And so you have to give them a sequence of treatments.
Right.
And where you're going to do that. I think that if there's one criticism of the programs, it's probably the fact that you're repeatedly doing a subcutaneous injection in these cows. And so that's kind of where the e-sync comes in, and some of these other type of systems.
Yeah. So they have to be, and they have to be, and as you know, I think one of the latest things that's come on board, I don't know if it's a year ago or what, is just let cows be cows. In other words, every time you stop a cow from her going back and eating and lying down, every time you divert her from those critical functions, which is basically eating and resting and time budgets, and let cows be cows notion is that, if I got to give her an injection, she can't just go
do what she wants
to do, so, and that leads us to these concepts of, okay, what kind of electronic technology could we possibly develop to get cows pregnant? And of course, one of the big thing, as you know, is the wearable technologies, cows that come into heat naturally. I don't know, I think that's fair. Naturally, I think that's fair.
Or induced.
They run around the pan, and they like to mess with their neighbors and stuff like that. And when they do that, you can detect that additional activity with a collar and maybe breed off that activity. And to our surprise, I think, Paul, maybe not, you weren't surprised, but I was surprised when people said, this is good. I'll use them both. I'll do time to AI and I'll put collars on them. And that's where I think we really got good. And tell the audience why, because you're supposed to be the one talking, not me.
Well, no, I mean, I think the other thing I wanted to bring up about these protocols, it's a sequence of treatments. And so you have to give the right treatments to the right cow on the right day. That was a huge barrier to these really high preg rates that we had. I ran into a group of farmers that said, on any given treatment day, we're 90% compliant. So we're 90%. And I said, no, you're not 90%, because it's 90% times however many treatments you have. And that number goes down very quickly. And so the ability to get the right treatments to the right cows on the right day becomes a challenge. The farms that have figured this out get really, really high preg rates, and the programs work extremely well. And so So let's just talk about the practical aspects as we move into this.
Mm-hmm.
Large farms what they'll normally do is they'll generate a list of cows
Mm-hmm.
by pen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if a cow that's in the pen that you're in, that you're
Mhm.
looking for,
Mm-hmm.
is in the wrong pen,
Mm-hmm.
you'll never find her
Right.
because she's just nowhere to be found.
Right.
If
yeah.
she's not in the pen that she's listed that she's supposed to be in.
Right. Yeah.
And these things, on large farms, these things are incredibly, it takes a lot to get the labor, the people in charge of these studios. So one of the large farms I work with, they put pedometers on the guys that were going out to find the cows.
Yeah.
And these guys are walking 8-10 miles a day, chasing cows.
Right. Right.
And you've done this before, Matt. I mean, the cows that you find right away, it's the last 10% of cows in the pen and on the list that you got to find.
Yeah.
So they're chasing cows.
Yeah.
Takes
a lot of time.
It takes a lot of time. And so I just wanted to bring up one farm group that I work with in Wisconsin. They have gone to this pneumatic system. Okay,
wow.
so it's a pneumatic system.
Is this like Star Trek?
It's kind of like Star Trek.
Okay,
it's
so
kind of like having, it's kind
this
of like
is
having
a
Kirk
little-
with his laser beam, right?
No, it was who was the doctor on Star Trek? Who was that?
Bones.
Bones.
Yeah, of
Remember
course.
Bones? He would
Bones. Yeah, no, it's exactly that,
Okay,
man.
okay.
Yeah, did the shots that way.
Okay, so tell us about that because
So-
that seems to be hitting the
So it's
dairy
really,
industry.
yeah, and I really enjoy working with these farms that solve problems and are just this farm I would consider to be in, kind of the top percentage of really good managers. So they saw the guys were walking a lot. So what they did is they built a platform on the rotary.
Mm-hmm.
They put the two guys there. They've got this pneumatic gun system.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally developed for swine. So, and one of the reasons that they put this in place is because they wanted to limit leukosis in their herd.
Okay, because
and
that gets
leukosis gets
by needles,
transferred by
right?
blood.
Right. Yeah.
And so they do a lot of embryo work. So they wanted to
Mhm.
get rid of leukosis.
Mm-hmm.
But so they've got Parlor Boss, which is a 42-inch TV screen,
Mm-hmm.
and the two guys are standing and the cows are going around the parlor. And so they just watch the cows as they go around, and it will say, give this cow GnRH,
Yeah.
give this cow prostaglandin. It's a needleless system.
Yeah.
They just put it up against they're putting it in the semitendinous muscle.
Okay.
Put it up there, and it's just a burst. It's not loud. I think the cows, I've stood there and watched it for about an hour, watched these guys work.
Yeah.
I like it better than needles. I think the cows prefer it to needles. And guess what? If all cows go to the parlor,
Yeah.
so they don't have to be in the right pen. So
Right, yeah.
compliance goes up.
Yeah.
They're not using needles. I think it's a pretty neat system.
Do we have any data on that? Like any data on luteolysis or the
We
regression?
were
of
going
the
to do
stia?
that. I
and
think
then-
that's something we want to kind of do,
Yeah.
compare that.
Yeah.
What I can tell you is we don't know, but what I can tell you is that the farm they have excellent repro, and it didn't really change when they went to the
Right. So they
system. So
implemented the needleless system. I wonder what for us when we go. I don't like needles when I go to the
I
hospital.
don't either, but you probably had smallpox? We all had smallpox.
Yeah,
that
but
thing.
I
That was a pneumatic thing, wasn't it? No, maybe
Wasn't
they
it?
had a lot of little needles.
I don't
remember
know. I was too little, but I didn't like my COVID shots. That's for sure.
No,
But
that's right.
Yeah. So the needleless system
So-
is on, but we don't have a lot of data on that. I love this. I love that. I think that started in the swine, didn't it? That started.
It
over the
was,
swine?
I think the devices they're from Iowa. They're originally developed for swine.
Yeah.
You can do either subcutaneous or
Yeah.
intramuscular. It's just how much PSI you put behind
Yeah.
it.
And it blasts the
It puts
treatment
it
through
right
the
in.
skin.
And I think in my mind, all the vasculature is probably going to pick it up a little bit better
Yeah.
than having a big depot injection
Yeah,
site.
yeah.
So I think
That's
it's
pretty
a
exciting.
yeah, no, it's a pretty good system. And
Yeah.
I've heard other farms are kind of doing that, but it eliminates the needles. It streamlines the whole thing, and it really works well on this farm.
Let's cows be cows because they're gonna
Yep.
have to get on the platform anyways to get milk. You're gonna
Exactly.
give them their injection. It's less stressful for them. When they're done, they go back to the pen and go back to the pen and they can do whatever they need to do,
Yep.
and this is the new thing is, probably the less we hassle cows, they're better they're
Better off
gonna
it is.
do, they just like that. So So now, the Cornell group, your student, Julio Giordano,
Julio
right?
Giordano
Yeah,
at Cornell.
At Cornell, and we give a shout out to the Big Red. Let's go Big Red. There's two Big Reds. Did you know that? There's the Wisconsin Big Red and there's a Cornell Big Red.
I know.
Okay? We're the Bears. You're the Badgers.
That's
okay?
right. That's
I'm a Cornell grad, but anyway. So and Julio was working on this kind of an electronic system where basically it comes down to putting a device into the vagina of the cow. And for those that aren't familiar with some of the things we do put some reproductive devices in the vagina of cows. I think the only approved one is the cedar in America for progesterone release. It's not a new thing to use the vagina to as a place to release a hormone. But what he's doing is his team is attempting to use kind of a modified cedar device and has some chambers in there to release hormones into the vagina of the cow, have it controlled by your cell phone. I think that's the idea, is controlled by the cell phone somehow. And then he's got a couple of abstracts here. Paul and I were talking to one of his students this morning.
Yeah, we were at the poster. He presented. I've talked to Julio about this he's worked on this for quite a while. So what they did actually is they approached the engineering group at Cornell. Said, we want you guys to design this intravaginal device that would deliver these hormones. Now, there's some just inherent problems. As we all know, GnRH is a decapeptide. It's susceptible to proteolysis. It's supposed to be refrigerated. The body temperature of cows is
not refrigerated. Cows are refrigerated.
Exactly. It's more than that. So one of the things they have to overcome is, how much GnRH do you have to put in? Is it the volume of the GnRH? They've actually used, I believe, citric acid to try to balance that a little bit. So there's a lot of technical things. I think I would describe that abstract as proof of concept.
Yeah.
And that's really what they were doing. So they've got the device, I think the right size. It's got the wings on it.
Yeah.
Just like a cedar device would be. So, you kind of fold those down, you put it in the vagina and they fold out, holds it in there. And then what they were showing in the abstract was, I think they put them in for 8 hours.
Okay.
And then they push the button and
on the phone
it dumped. It dumped whatever was in there.
So
GnRH,
to your phone. Yeah.
But the thing is, we were talking at the poster, Matt, and this is something I probably would need to talk to Julio about. These protocols are they're protocols, right? So they're timed. Why can't you have some kind of an electronic device to just automatically say, okay, when you put it in within an hour, you're going to give the first GnRH and 7 days later the prostaglandin. But a big part of that poster was getting that device to talk to the beacon in the barn so that you could control it with your phone. And so they showed the connection to the beacon was really high before you put the device in the cow. But of course, there's a lot of tissue mass there. So you put it in and that drops way down, yet they were able to control it. I think they have another poster tomorrow looking at some of the ovarian response. So they looked at the LH surge and ovulation, I think.
With the different doses of GnRH. And so
and compared it actually to given subcutaneous injections.
So it's not completely unheard of to give GnRH into the vagina. I know that in the swine industry, there's a product called Avugel, which is used to sort of synchronize ovulation in sows after weaning. And so and it's a intravaginal based product, but you basically you go along behind the sows and just give it. You don't put it's not an electronic thing. It just goes into the vagina. It just avoids giving the injection. And
Matt, here's a little history. When prostaglandins were first brought out for luteolysis, they came in little vials.
Oh no!
And you broke the top of this glass vial off, and you sucked the prostaglandin into a pipette, and they infused it into the uterus. So they weren't giving it. I don't know if they knew it would work actually intramuscularly at first. So they were actually infusing it into the uterus. A very effective way to administer prostaglandins for sure.
So the technology basically, I think everybody wearable technology, hands-off technology, let cows be cows, robots, robotic feeding, robotic milking, robotic parlors. Gia's got the 60-mil robotic parlor. It's all about this stuff. And Julio has his concept. Can we sort of essentially robotically administer this stuff into the cow in some manner? I've seen, I don't know if you saw it. I saw it in dairy herd management, the robotic injector robot dude.
There's people that I've had calls from that are looking for
robotic
robots that are going to do.
injectors.
I don't know if I like that
You
idea.
don't like the robotic
No.
injector, but Paul, the robotic teat sprayer, that thing's going crazy. Those
Those
robotic
things
teat
work, but
sprayers.
there's not a needle attached to the end of that thing.
But I
just
love
am a
those
little-
little robotic
I'm
teat
a little-
sprayers.
Those are great. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are great. And I think, robotic milking is when we
Don't
talk about
happen.
robotic milking, we got more robots going in all the time.
Yeah.
I think what Hulu, so let me just look into the crystal ball a little bit.
Yeah, let's do
with
that.
this-
Let's
with
do
this
that.
technology. Imagine it, and I think the reason that Julio is wanting to be able to control this device,
Mhm.
imagine being able to, let's say we paired this with the future technology in which we knew what progesterone was
Yeah.
every time you milk the cow.
Right.
Well, we know the optimal time of the cycle. This is why we pre-synchronize cows.
Right.
We know the optimal state. We want them day 6 or day 7.
Yeah.
What if you could just watch progesterone?
Yeah.
You could say, okay, she's in estrus
Yeah.
here. We got an activity monitor.
Yeah.
She's in estrus.
Yeah.
Then you watch progesterone come up on day
Yeah.
7.
Yeah.
You pull out your phone, boom,
Boom. Hit her.
start.
Start
then,
up saying.
One of the things we know about these protocols, we talked earlier about the
Yeah.
second prostaglandin
Mhm.
because of the lack of luteolysis. Well, some
Mhm.
cows will regress the CL just fine.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe they just need one treatment of
Mhm.
prostaglandin, but you could watch and you could say, okay, boom, I got to give her an extra
Yeah.
dose. And so
Yeah.
maybe these would be things that could be tied together, big data. I mean,
Yeah.
I think if you-
Reduce hormone usage, which and save time and
Exactly.
labor.
and so you could just imagine how
Yeah.
this might fit together with future technologies. And I think ultimately that's kind of where they're going with this.
Yeah, so the progesterone, as Paul's very well aware, the progesterone, that's monitoring progesterone on cows, not futuristic. DeVal's new 3100 robot or
Mhm.
whatever comes with a progesterone module that sticks in there,
Yep.
and so you buy your milking robot and you just, okay, yeah, I'll take some progesterone with that milking robot. And so now it's a matter of sort of combining. And I used to consult with DeVal, and I always told them, I said, you guys need to think about combining this with some other technologies,
Yep.
because you could really work nice, and do you think, Paul, the geneticists are going to say whatever, blah, blah. You think the methods that we use today, they're going to evolve. Okay.
Yep.
Do you think they're with us forever? Will cows forever be on some program? I mean, some sort of program, reproductive program.
It's a good question. I don't know if my crystal ball is good enough. What I can tell you,
Yeah.
we've done a number of experiments now where we have directly compared in randomized controlled trials where we control days in milk
Mm-hmm.
at breeding.
Mm-hmm.
The advantage of doing the fertility programs is 7 to 10 percentage points in conception rate
Mm-hmm.
over
For
breeding
sure.
a cow to estrus.
No
And
question.
so that's a lot,
Yeah.
right? And again, I can't stress enough, the reason we can use sex semen, the reason we can use
Yeah.
beef semen, the reason we're trying to get culling rates
Yeah.
and optimize those culling rates
Mhm.
to whatever would be optimal, I don't know if it's 25% or
Mhm.
35%. The reason we can do embryo transfer,
Yeah.
all of that is
Yeah.
dependent upon good repro.
Yeah.
And right now, and I
Yeah.
remember, Matt, an interesting story. When I first
Yeah.
started in extension at Wisconsin, farmers used to say to me, just give me a way to get my cows pregnant.
Yeah.
Because I mean, getting cows pregnant
Yeah.
is a huge part of the profit equation on a dairy.
Yeah.
Now we've got this great way. When we were on sabbatical, Matt, I remember
Mhm.
you saying, if I'm a cow, just put me on double ovsync and get me pregnant, because you got about a 50% chance to get pregnant, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But now there is this pushback, I guess you would say,
Yeah.
that some people are saying, well, let's minimize this. Maybe there's going to be ways to do that. Maybe there's not. But at this point in time,
Yeah.
we understand physiologically what is limiting fertility,
Yeah.
and these programs overcome that, and
Yeah.
they're very effective. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody will argue with that. And so personally, I hope they don't go away. I think what we can do is optimize. I think we can combine it with other technology. Again, I'm a big fan of I mean, I'm not 100% timed AI, right? So using timed AI judiciously and in the right ways for service with sex semen and those kinds of things,
Yeah.
then catching cows coming back into heat, we're driving preg rates really high that way. And it's a very profitable thing to do.
We can do a lot. It's interesting question, things are going to evolve, Paul.
Sure.
I mean, we're here today, 50 years from now. I don't know what the landscape's going to be 50 years from now. I don't think
It's a
it'll be
long ways.
It's a long way.
Years. We'll be here in 50 years.
I can see the wearable stuff. I can see but I can see some combination of hormonal therapy, wearable technology, hands-off stuff, and it's not so far-fetched. I wrote about I pulled down some statistics in women, for example. And is it, we always ask ourselves, how come people don't ask more questions about what we're doing here, and with the treatments and stuff. But I was just pulled down statistics from the CDC, 25% of the women between 15 and 49 are infertile. Okay. And so infertility is a thing that happens in women. It happens in people, right? And 1 to 2% of human babies in America are born to IVF.
Yep.
Okay. And so these
assisted reproduction
technologies. And so I guess what I'm trying to say, I mean, I think for the American citizens, I think they sort of understand that, hey, you've got animals are really important to you. It's really important they get pregnant. It's probably okay to apply some technology here to help them get pregnant. And, that's what we've been, the thing that's amazing is that how successful we've been. We've taken animals that with a very, very fair likelihood that they're going to leave the herd not pregnant. And we've really given opportunity to remain productive, stay in the herd, contribute. And
I call it, Matt, a reproduction revolution. This is one of the great success stories in agriculture. And I think ObSync as a technology was the #1 technology of the last century that was developed.
No question.
I mean, I don't know.
Artificial insemination. Come on, man.
Maybe it was Vince artificial insemination.
Wow. I can't wait.
I want to add, but Matt, I
can't wait to hear the geneticists respond to that.
I want to add one more thing to the fertility programs discussion. And it's a topic that I don't think we're talking about enough. And that is, so I've argued that the thing that has driven the preg rates are the fertility programs. But once you get fertility good in a herd, you move the herd into the high fertility cycle. So cows, and that's a concept that cows that get pregnant in a timely fashion don't get fat late in lactation. They don't calve as fat cows, lose all this body condition score, have all these periparturient problems. They have higher fertility. And so cows are healthier. Cows are happier.
Absolutely.
We can decrease twinning rates. I don't think we talk enough about the benefits to the cow of good fertility.
No,
it's a huge conversation piece that I don't, some people just say, oh, we just want to try to minimize hormone use. It's like, well, wait a minute, it's not all bad. It's really quite good for the cow to get her pregnant in a timely fashion. So I would like to continue to kind of push that aspect forward in these conversations.
If you were to ask me, are cows healthier today than they were 25, 30 years ago? I'd say they're healthier today.
A good friend of mine, he manages a large dairy. I asked him the question, what is it about your herd today at a 30% preg rate compared to when it was at 14? And he thought about it for a minute. And you know what he said? Got a better herd of cows.
Yeah.
I have a better herd of cows.
Right.
And that's really what good reproduction has done.
Yeah.
We can, Pam Ruig, our friend Pam Ruig.
We know Pam. Hey, Pam, we're talking about you.
We can solve a lot of mastitis problems because if you have excess replacements, you can cull your way out of some of these kinds of problems. And so good repro. I was asked nutritionists. You're gonna go with Jeff Fricke.
Yeah.
Would you rather work with herds with good repro?
Yeah.
Or horrible repro?
Yeah, ask him.
You ask him that. And it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
The nutritionists say we want to work with herds with good repro because it solves so many problems.
We're not going to solve all the problems today. And we're going to wrap it up. And I tell you, Paul, I knew it was going to be so much fun. And it was so much fun.
Absolutely.
We have a present for you, Paul. We
Thank
have a
you.
present. You have to open it up.
I have to open it in front of the
Yeah,
camera?
in front of the camera.
This is
Okay.
great.
This
I'm
is great.
excited.
You're excited.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh, what is
Open it from the
this?
top.
I open it from the top. Now,
Okay.
is this in the correct box or is this?
Well, I don't know.
It is in the correct box. Okay,
It's
here we
not
go.
a, it's
I'm
not
gonna
a,
look
it's
at
not
this. Here
a
we go.
spongy snake that popped out already. That was,
Okay, here we
there we go.
go. This is gonna be something I'm gonna be using the rest of this meeting here. Look at that. Dairy digressions.
Milo doesn't even have one of
Milo
those.
will make
Milo
us-
doesn't have these.
No, this is great. So
Jealous.
I've got that. Thank
All
you.
right, all right.
Thank you guys so
Thanks so
much.
much, Paul. It's been fantastic.
Thanks,
Thank
Matt.
you, everybody. Thank you.